In a separate piece, Finney is not only Gene's friend, but his innocence. But what changed Gene's identity more, the loss of his close friend or the loss of his identity? When Gene lost Finney, he did not really change his identity from it. On page 194, Gene says, "I did not cry then or ever about Finney." The reason he did not cry was because Gene did not care that his friend died. He only cared that his innocence was gone, and that's also what let him change his identity. He was no longer focused on his childhood's ways, but instead he did what he was supposed to do and went to war and conformed into adult life. In The Catcher in the Rye, Holden starts the book stuck between innocence and the corrupt adult life. The cause of his half-loss of innocence is the fact that Allie, his younger brother, died. But what keeps him from losing all of his innocence is the fact that he can't let go of the childhood that he shared with his little brother. Even when bad things happen, he always brings himself to think about Allie and his childhood. This is made apparent because after he met with Sunny, the prostitute that he hired, he felt he was too close to losing his innocence, even though he didn't do anything with Sunny. So he started talking to Allie again, like he said on page 98. "After old Sunny was gone, I sat in a chair for a while and smoked a couple cigarettes. It was getting daylight outside. Boy, I felt miserable. I felt so depressed, you can't imagine. What I did, I started talking, sort of out loud, to Allie. I do that sometimes when I get very depressed." Because of The Catcher in the Rye, I don't think that death is what forces people to lose their innocence, because in Holden's case, death is what keeping him from losing his innocence because he feels he needs to connect back to Allie. The memoir by Elie Wiesel is about the time that he spent in the concentration camps at the Holocaust. It was a very traumatic experience for him and everyone involved. He saw innocent people being murdered just because they were Jewish. The things that he experienced were some that no one should ever go through. And he even says on page 34, "Never shall I forget that night, the first night in the camps, that turned my life into one long night 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget that smoke. Never shall I forget the small faces of the children whose body I saw transformed into smoke under a silent sigh. Never shall I forget those flames that consumed my face forever. Never shall I forget the nocturnal silence that deprived me for all eternity of the desire to live. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams into ashes. Never shall I forget those things, even if I were condemned to live as long as God himself." Seeing all those things changed his view on the world, and he will forever act more guarded because of what he saw during that time. This short story also presses the same thought-provoking question, but instead of witnessing murder, they each play a part in it. The first identity change is when the grandma recognizes the misfit. As soon as she said, "You're the misfit, I recognized you at once," he said, "Yes, it would have been better for all of you, lady, if you hadn't recognized me." As if they put him into this identity that he must follow through with it. He starts forming into this person that many other people have created for him. The second person whose action changed is the grandma herself. Once she realizes that she is going to be killed, her attitude changes immediately. She turns into a Christ-like figure and tells him that he can go back and change his ways as long as he prays. And that's why in the end the misfit turns to his friend and says, "She would have been a good woman," the misfit said, as if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. Her actions were changed for the better, but only because she was afraid of being murdered. When Addie died, everyone in the family changed. Those who loved her the most tried to do everything they could to give her a beautiful funeral. The other family members who weren't as close did it just because they felt that's what they owed to her. The neighbors who knew the Brundrens saw what they were doing as an act of love. They understood that the family was not normal, so they tried to hurry up the absurd journey to Jackson. But once they left their town and the people in the neighboring town saw that what they did was disrespect to Addie, they even had down the street with handkerchiefs to their noses. That really shows that losing a loved one can change how others view you. Bannecke's whole book is about the unfortunate events and how it's no big deal. Bannekke creates an alternate world where their philosophy is forget the bad things and focus on the good. That's why every time something bad happens, the next line is, "So it goes." When the main character Billy Pilgrim's wife died, it doesn't even faze him. He said, "So it goes," because, like the alternate world, the people there tell him. He has always pressed it, and he always will. We always let him, and we always will let him. The moment is structured that way. And that is in regards to the Tralfamadorians ending the world. And that's why Billy doesn't focus on it, and he just moves on. And I think Vonnegut thinks that death should not change your identity.
On page 20, no, it had little I have nothing else to say on that. Okay.